Shaun King's blunt take that he had a seventh round grade on Dillon Gabriel and a late first, early second on Shedeur cut straight to the heart of the Browns' pre-draft and early training camp mess. Talent evaluations matter, draft position matters, and perception often becomes reality in roster construction. But the practical football decisions Cleveland faces now are messier than draft grades alone. Injuries, contract status, roster shape, and short-term competitiveness all combine to make the Gabriel versus Sanders debate more than a simple right or wrong scouting call. First, remember the baseline. The Browns drafted Gabriel earlier and Sanders later, which immediately shifted organizational priorities. Draft capital buys patience. A third-round pick, Gabriel, inherently carries more weight than a fifth-round pick, Shedeur, because teams invest not just salary, but draft capital, scouting time, and narrative in the players they pick earlier. That reality influences reps, playbook access, and the margin of error coaches will afford a player in camp. Shaun King's hypothetical flip, if the Browns had picked Sanders earlier, is a fair thought experiment. Yes, perception and investment would likely have led to different roster math. But hindsight about grades doesn't change the rules teams live by. Second, the insofar as roster logistics, NFL teams rarely keep 4 quarterbacks unless there are special circumstances, injury insurance, trade protectiveness, a quarterback disguised as a roster asset. The Browns currently have Joe Flacco, veteran bridge, Kenny Pickett, former first-round pick on a short deal, Dillon Gabriel, day 2-ish investment, and Shedeur Sanders, rookie with upside and publicity. Keeping all 4 is expensive in roster spots and complicates special teams and depth at other positions. So one of 2 paths is most likely. Cut down to 3, Flacco plus 2 young guys, or Flacco plus 1 rookie plus a cheaper vet, or carry 4 temporarily through preseason and make a decision at final cuts. That decision will be driven by on-field performance, special teams value, injury history, and who has trade interest. Third, performance trumps pedigree when money and availability collide. Shedeur's preseason start vaulted him into national conversation. 2 TDs, no turnovers, and tangible composure under pressure. That performance doesn't erase the draft slide or analytic concerns, but it does force coaches to reevaluate. Gabriel's hamstring absence in the opener cost him reps and a chance to answer the critics. In a tight camp battle, missed practice time is costly. If Gabriel returns and looks crisp, the coaches can justify keeping him. If he struggles or remains banged up, Sanders' momentum could tilt the scales despite being the lower pick. The Browns will weigh film, practice reps, situational competence, 3-minute drills, red zone reads, and intangibles like leadership and decision-making under duress. Fourth, there's a roster management contract nuance. Rookie contracts are slotted and cheap, so financials favor keeping a younger player with team control. Sanders would have 4 years control. Pickett, owed $2.6 million this season per reports, is more expensive than Sanders and has just 1 year left of his rookie deal. That dynamic could influence decisions at cutdown time. If the Browns can keep a cheaper rookie who flashes while cutting a marginal veteran, they might prefer the financial flexibility. Gabriel's cap hit is also small, but the Browns may ask which path gives them roster flexibility at other positions where they need depth. Fifth, trade and waiver markets matter. If the Browns decide 1 QB is expendable, who has trade value? A former high-mid draft pick who has flashed in college, Gabriel, might attract calls. A publicity-fueled rookie, Shedeur, could too. But teams evaluate based on tape and scheme fit. The Browns can also stash a QB on the practice squad if he clears waivers, but that only works for players with limited accrued seasons. Final scenarios will hinge on timing. Late cuts and claims happen quickly, and other clubs will pounce if the perceived talent is real. Sixth, the coach's philosophy is pivotal. Kevin Stefanski's style historically values experience and structure. He's not known for impulsive moves. His evaluation mode comments are consistent with a coaching staff that will let the process play out. That doesn't please fans who want instant justice for a draft slide, but it's a reasoned approach. Stefanski and the offensive staff will be watching consistent command of play-calling language, how each QB handles blitzes, pre-snap adjustments, protection checks, progressions, and third down efficiency, not just highlight throws. Seventh, development timelines differ. Pickett and Gabriel entered the league under different expectations. Sanders rare slide created extra spotlight and external pressure that the Browns must manage. A team wanting to develop a rookie over the medium term might keep him as QB3, add developmental reps, and avoid rushing him into the Week 1 fire. Alternatively, if wins are the immediate priority and Flacco looks like he's earned the Week 1 start, the Browns might keep 3 quarterbacks and bring Sanders along slowly. Finally, perception versus long-term reality. Shaun King's informed commentary matters as a scouting perspective, but football is practiced and decided on fields, not on boardroom grade sheets. Sanders' preseason showed he can play. Gabriel's absence leaves questions. The Browns' final decision will reflect a mix of medical updates, tape, coaches' trust, and roster math. Fans and talking heads can argue grades, but the club's responsibility is to build the roster that gives it the best chance to win now while preserving future options. Bottom line, if Shedeur had been drafted higher, he'd almost certainly have more runway. Because he wasn't, his margin for error is thinner, yet his on-field moments force reconsideration. Dillon Gabriel is not suddenly a non-player because of one analyst's grade, but he does need to prove health and consistency quickly. Expect the Browns to carry 3 or 4 QBs only through preseason, then make hard choices based on health, tape, and who they believe can best serve their 2025 plan, whether that's development, a bridge veteran, or a surprise rookie ascendant. Shaun King didn't mince words about the Browns' confusing quarterback room, and his blunt assessment has put Dillon Gabriel squarely in the spotlight for the wrong reasons. On the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, King said he had a 7th-round grade on Gabriel and a significantly higher grade on Shedeur Sanders, suggesting that if the 2 prospects had been drafted in the opposite slots, Gabriel might already be out of Cleveland. That's a striking claim, and it highlights a real organizational dilemma. The Browns used 2 draft capital moves to bring in young quarterbacks, Gabriel in round 3, Sanders in round 5, yet they now face a choice many teams would kill to avoid. Carrying 4 quarterbacks into a regular season is rare. It ties up a valuable roster spot. But with Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, Dillon Gabriel, and Shedeur Sanders all under the same roof, plus the lingering uncertainty around Deshaun Watson's availability, Cleveland's brass is being forced into a delicate balancing act between immediate readiness and long-term upside. Why would Gabriel be the odd man out, according to critics like King? A few practical reasons. Draft stock and perceived upside matter in roster decisions. A team is likelier to be patient with a higher drafted player because of the investment and the expectations that come with it. Sanders, despite falling to the 5th round, has pedigree, big game tape, and brand momentum. His preseason debut only amplified that narrative. Gabriel, meanwhile, has battled inconsistency and is currently dealing with a hamstring issue that has limited his visibility in camp and preseason action. But the Browns' decision-making won't be purely emotional. Roster economics and team needs are also critical. Pickett carries a salary and a former first-round label that give him some standing. Flacco is a veteran bridge option. Sanders is cost-controlled for 4 years. Gabriel fits in the middle. His contract and draft slot don't offer the same protection as Pickett's former round status, nor the cost advantage of a 5th-round rookie. That makes Gabriel strategically expendable in theory, but only if there's a willing trade market or a viable path to stash him on the practice squad. Realistically, Cleveland has a few options. They can keep 4 quarterbacks through final cuts, less common but not impossible, try to trade Gabriel for draft capital or depth at another position, or risk exposing him to waivers with the hope of landing him on the practice squad. Each choice carries risk. Keeping 4 limits flexibility, trading Gabriel requires finding a buyer at a fair price, and waiving him invites another team to scoop up a developmental arm. Shaun King's take crystallizes a truth many fans feel viscerally. Draft position still influences perception and patience. But football decisions live in a messy world of injuries, cap math, and timing. For Gabriel, the next few weeks of camp and preseason reps will be everything, and the Browns' front office will have to decide whether they value short-term coverage or long-term upside more.